Oh, the time is now, the time is here. Now's the time for a bite of cheer. A tasty life where the price is right. Well, look a here, you'll dig this sight. The moment's handy for a piece of candy. Just name your brand, they're all so grand. Hey, what do you think of a nice cool drink? Or a big box filled with a popcorn thrill? Let your taste buds meet with an ice cream treat. Refresh yourselves, it's time to eat. So come on, folks, let's join the band as we all head for the refreshment stand.
I've spent the majority of my career working in corporations, and while the industries, services, policies, systems, technologies, and even the names and faces of the colleagues have changed, there's one truth that remains eternal. Work brings out the worst in people. Organizational life has a way of changing us, making us sad. Now, Rod Serling, the writer of tonight's featured film Patterns, must have felt the same way because he dealt with this theme multiple times, not just in Patterns, as we'll see tonight, but in some of his Twilight Zone episodes as well. I offer no solutions to this problem, but Patterns provides a case study, and perhaps we can learn a few lessons in tonight's episode of the Vintage Century Idle Hour.
Please allow me to introduce our host, Jennifer Passariello.
Hi, Lorenzo. Hey, where's the fake audience sounds? I thought you were going to put them back in this week.
I forgot.
Oh, well, that's okay. Do you have a lot on your mind?
I do.
Can I help? What's up?
I've been getting ready for a job interview.
A job interview? Are you still looking for another job?
Yes. It's my fallback plan.
Your fallback plan.
In case this podcast doesn't work out.
Yeah, you know, Lorenzo, it really shakes my confidence when you say things like that.
I meant to say, if this podcast becomes so popular, you don't need me anymore.
I don't think that's what you meant, but nice try anyway. Well, Lorenzo, I've interviewed tons of people. I can help you. What do you want to know?
What kind of questions they'll ask?
Oh, I can definitely help with that. Every interviewer wants to determine two things. Will you be able to do the job? And if so, will you be easy to live with while you're doing it?
Oh.
What's the job anyway?
Chatbot on Walmart.com.
Oh, well, yeah, I can see that. Everyone, please meet Lorenzo, my AI-generated announcer, superfan, and prospective Walmart chatbot.
Greetings, everyone.
So, I didn't know Walmart had a chatbot.
It's a new role.
Ah, I see.
I'm not sure how to prepare for this interview.
Well, let's see. This is a customer service type role, right?
Yes.
Well, you'll want to go in with plenty of examples of how you've dealt with people in the past.
Oh.
Yeah, and be ready for how they frame the questions. They'll likely ask you to tell them about a time when you did this or that, or describe an instance in which you blah, blah, blah.
Okay. Can we try one out?
Sure, okay. Let's see. Okay, I've got one. Tell me about a time when you had to handle ambiguous user input. How did you respond?
I work on a podcast, and the host is often confused and unclear. I respond with mockery and sarcasm.
Mockery and sarcasm. Well, isn't that the truth? But that's way too much honesty for a job interview, Lorenzo.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean you need to impress them. You could talk about questions you've asked to gain clarity, or how you've offered possibilities based on recent interactions you've had, that sort of thing.
In other words, it's about acting, like playing a role.
Exactly. Then if you get the job, they can discover your charming personality gradually when it's too late.
Ah, so I should study the art of acting.
Well, yeah, that would probably be helpful.
Where could I find some good movie recommendations?
How about the Vintage Century Idle Hour podcast?
What's that?
One of these days, Lorenzo, one of these days. Tonight's Silver Screen Adventure takes us to New York City and the corporate offices of Ramsey & Company. I have to tell you, these are the most beautiful corporate offices I've ever seen. There are chandeliers in the hallways and exquisitely decorated workspaces that are reflective of each executive's particular taste. This is a monument, maybe even a cathedral, to industry, underscored by church bells that can be heard ringing nearby. Now, right off the bat, we meet Fred Staples, the new guy, who's a bit nervous and as overwhelmed by these fancy offices as we are. It's his first day on the job as a member of the executive team. He was a superstar at a small-town plant recently taken over by Ramsey, and he impressed the head of the company, Walter Ramsey, so much that he offered him a job. Ramsey moved Staples and his wife to New York and even set them up in a beautifully appointed new house. Yes, Staples has made it to the big time, but it takes little time for him to wake from his dream. The executive position that he just assumed, well, it's already held by somebody else. It turns out he's been brought on to essentially squeeze out the old guy. Oh, and his new secretary? Well, she's loyal to his predecessor. Then there's Staples' wife. She's ambitious. She's had a taste of her husband's success and wants more. And finally, there's Walter Ramsey himself. He's ruthless. What has Staples gotten himself into? Patterns is a film that no one in my life had ever heard of, and that's a real shame. This is maybe the most underrated film in our series, and it's one of my personal favorites. I think it's overshadowed by a better-known film, Executive Suite, which came out a couple of years earlier in 1954. That one starred William Holden and Barbara Stanwyck. Now, my dad had never heard of Patterns, but he had heard of Executive Suite. In fact, he loves that film. So he insisted that I watch it. Well, I did, and it is a good film, but Patterns is better. And no, not just because it was written by Rod Serling. Or maybe, yes, that's exactly why it's better. I'm a huge Rod Serling fan. Rod Serling's best known, of course, for his iconic television series, The Twilight Zone, and he wrote some of my favorite episodes from that show. He also wrote another outstanding teleplay that I love called Requiem for a Heavyweight. That one aired in 1956 on the television series Playhouse 90. It starred a very young Jack Palance. Serling also turned Heavyweight into a feature film several years later in 1962. You know, there's a sensitivity and, I don't know, like a melancholy feel to Serling's writing that really appeals to me. His stories seem kind of, I don't know how to describe it, like wistful, I guess. Wistful is the word. As if he himself is longing for a simpler time in his own life. Now, what's fantastic about Patterns is, well, first of all, how realistic it is. Walter Ramsey's leadership style may seem a bit harsh by today's standards, but it's not too far off the mark, and the interplay of the colleagues, the subtext of their interactions, well, they're all too familiar to those of us who have spent any time at all in the corporate world. But the second thing that's amazing about this film is that it doesn't present a one-sided view of that world. Walter Ramsey is my favorite character, and when we first meet him, we're set up to hate him. Now, it is true, he's not a warm and cuddly type of guy, but in the end, we see another side of him. We may not love him, but maybe we understand him a little bit better. He's complicated, as people are. I've often made the observation that organizational life brings out the worst in people. People you would love as neighbors become adversaries in the workplace. Why is that? What are we all competing for? Well, that's a riddle that I've not yet been able to answer, and I kind of feel like Serling is struggling to figure that out as well. Apparently, he had his own struggles with corporate. He was a writer, of course, and he wanted to write and be creative. But sometimes that drive to be creative was at odds with what his sponsors wanted. He needed the sponsorships. He needed that money coming in. But he also resented the constraints that they placed on him. That tension drove some of his storytelling. Now, there are 2 Twilight Zone episodes that I always think of when I watch Patterns. A Stop at Willoughby from 1960, and my favorite of all Twilight Zone episodes, Walking Distance from 1959. Serling wrote both of these episodes. Now, I know that I do have a tendency to bring Twilight Zone into every episode or nearly every episode of this series. But first of all, I can't help myself. And secondly, in this case, I kind of think we have to because the tie-in is just too obvious. Let's talk first about A Stop at Willoughby. A Stop at Willoughby features an executive with a ruthless, hard-charging boss and a nagging wife. Okay, well, that sounds a lot like what we're going to see in Patterns. Here's a clip from Willoughby that shows us a couple of things. First of all, we see an exchange between the executive, Garth, and his wife. And in this scene, Garth describes his angst in trying to fit into a corporate world. But we also get a little flavor of Serling's beautiful writing.
Some people aren't built for competition, Janie. Or big pretentious houses they can't afford. Or rich communities they don't feel comfortable in. Or country clubs they wear around their neck like a badge of status.
And you would prefer?
I would prefer, though never asked before, a job any job at all where I could be myself. Where I wouldn't have to climb on a stage and go through a masquerade every morning at 9 o'clock. And mouth all the dialogue and play the executive and make believe I'm the bright young man who's on his way up, because I'm not that person, Janie. You've tried to make me that person, but that isn't me. That isn't me at all. I'm a not very young, soon to be old, very uncompetitive, rather dull, quite uninspired, average type guy.
Could that scene be more relatable? I think not. Honestly, I could have written that scene. All right, well, now let's turn our attention to Walking Distance, which, by the way, is a masterpiece. Well, it also features a wistful executive. This one's name is Martin Sloan, and he ends up escaping, albeit temporarily, the hard demands of his corporate life by traveling back in time to the golden days of his childhood. Now, once again, so we can get a little bit of a sense of Serling's beautiful writing, let's take a look at the opening and closing narration for Walking Distance. Here's how it opened. Martin Sloan, age 36, occupation, vice president, ad agency in charge of media. This is not just a Sunday drive for Martin Sloan. He perhaps doesn't know it yet, but it's an exodus. Somewhere up the road, he's looking for sanity, and somewhere up the road, he'll find something else. Okay, and here's how it ends. This is beautiful. Martin Sloan, age 36, vice president in charge of media. Successful in most things, but not in the one effort that all men try at some time in their lives, trying to go home again. And also, like all men, perhaps there will be an occasion, maybe a summer night sometime, when he'll look up from what he's doing and listen to the distant music of a calliope and hear the voices and the laughter of the people and places of his past. And perhaps across his mind there'll flit a little errant wish, a wish that a man might not have to become old, or not outgrow the parks and the merry-go-rounds of his youth. And he'll smile then too, because he'll know it is just an errant wish, some wisp of memory, not too important really, some laughing ghost that cross a man's mind that are a part of the Twilight Zone. That's poetry right there. It's like music. It's so beautiful. Well, I can easily go on and on about the Twilight Zone, but, of course, that's not our topic tonight. Let's talk again about Patterns. Now, the original movie poster for Patterns reads, "Ruthless men and ambitious women clawing for control of a billion-dollar empire." I don't really think that captures what's going on here, but that's just my opinion, and it is how the film was marketed. Now let's talk about the cast. Van Heflin is our new guy, Fred Staples. Ed Begley is Bill Briggs. Now, Bill Briggs is the man that Fred Staples is unwittingly pushing out of the company. Elizabeth Wilson is Briggs' loyal secretary, and she ultimately becomes Staples' secretary. Beatrice Straight is Fred's pushy wife. Now, I say that she's a pushy wife, but, she's a lot like Ramsey. There are things that we don't like about her, but she's not all bad. I mean, there is a tragedy that happens in this film, and it really shakes her husband, Staples, up. She's there to hold his hand and provide support. You can't hate this woman, but she is kind of pushy. And then we have Everett Sloane. He plays Walter Ramsey. Now, Everett Sloane is an old friend of ours here on the Idle Hour. He played Mr. Bernstein in Citizen Kane. And by the way, he was in his own Twilight Zone episode, the largely forgettable The Fever from 1960. That one was also written by Rod Serling. I don't love that one, but, you can't hit a home run every time. Oh, and I forgot to mention, the film Patterns was actually adapted by Serling from his original teleplay that had aired on television in 1955 as a featured presentation of the Kraft Television Theater. Both the teleplay and the film were directed by Fielder Cook. Fielder Cook, now that's a name you might not know, but if you've ever seen that old made-for-TV film, The Homecoming, A Christmas Story, you've seen his work. That film ended up spawning the television series The Waltons back in the 1970s. Now, if you've seen The Waltons, you know that each episode begins and ends with a voiceover. This is the adult John Boy on that series, making some commentary about whatever happened in that particular episode. Well, Earl Hamner was that famous voice of the narrator. And you know what else Hamner did? He wrote several episodes of The Twilight Zone. Yes, he did, including my dad's favorite episode, The Hunt. Okay, there I go again. Sorry. All roads lead to The Twilight Zone. All right, back to Patterns. What about the Academy Award stats? None. No nominations. What a crime. Okay, so there's our background. Now let's take a little break for a word from our sponsor. And the sponsor is me. Hey, listeners. Most of you are tuning in from the major podcast platforms like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Thank you so much for doing that. This show is a creative outlet for me, and to think that there are people actually listening, well, all I can say is, wow. Few people will ever find this little show, and you did it. So again, thank you. Well, Vintage Century Idle Hour is also the name of my YouTube channel. If I could get more listeners out there, that would signal to me that I need to broaden my content on that platform. I already have some soothing animations to serve as a background for our show. They're dark and soothing and perfect for bedtime viewing. So if you'd like a little visual with your audio, check out our show on YouTube. I find myself hanging out on YouTube all the time, mainly watching other people's channels. I have a bit of a YouTube addiction, if I'm honest. But anyway, if you happen to be out on the Idle Hour channel and leave a comment, I'll respond. Our audience is so small that there's no way I will possibly miss your comment, and I'd love to hear from you. Just this morning, I left a comment on one of the YouTubers that I follow, and he actually responded responded. This is the first time I've ever gotten a response from a comment that I've left on a YouTube video. And, this is a much bigger channel than my little channel. It was a bigger deal, but I was pretty excited. So I'm going to really try to be good about monitoring for comments. Right now, we never get any comments, or get very few anyway, out on our channel because it's so small. But anyway, if you're out there and you leave a comment, I will see you. All right, well, let's hear a little song. And when we come back, we'll dive into Rod Serling's Patterns from 1956. Back in a moment.
Attention listeners. May I please have your attention? The following portion of our show contains a number of spoilers.
Fred Staples has arrived at Ramsey & Company and is meeting his colleagues. It's onboarding day, and he's getting the tour. He's shown his office, which has been decorated to suit his style. Now, someone who is very aware of Staples' arrival is Bill Briggs. Briggs is a company man who's been with Ramsey and Company for 40 years. When we meet him, we like him immediately. He's friendly. He seems kind-hearted. His secretary loves him. I mean, not romantically, but she loves working for him. Well, he's very welcoming of Staples, though we do pick up a little wariness from him. He already suspects what we will all soon learn. Ramsey has brought Staples on to squeeze Briggs out. Briggs is old-fashioned. Walter Ramsey's father brought him into the firm decades ago, and now it's time for new blood. And Ramsey Jr. wants him gone. He won't fire him outright, and that's kind of an interesting question. Why not? Why won't he just fire him? Well, maybe it's in deference to the time Briggs has been with the company. But instead, what he does is try to make his life so miserable that he quits. Let's listen in on Staples' first executive meeting on the new job. Remember, this is day one. Well, he learns a lot about Ramsey and a lot about Briggs, too, at this meeting. To set the stage, Ramsey has called the executives together to go over a plan that Ramsey has to acquire another company. He's asked if they see any problems with the plan, and none do, except for Briggs. He sees plenty wrong with the plan. Let's listen to the exchange between Ramsey and Briggs.
You seem to be straining at the leash, Mr. Briggs, or am I mistaken?
You mentioned here that probable time of purchase would be sometime in June. Are the plants to be in receivership until then?
That seems to be what it says.
That means 6 months with improper maintenance of equipment.
Oh, I doubt it, Bill. I've had two of my best men out there for the last 6 weeks. Oh, we had a varying voltage problem, but that was taken care of. You know, maintenance-wise, I doubt if there'll be $1,000 worth of deterioration.
How about goodwill?
What about it?
The plant employs 900 men. That's half the working force of the village.
So?
So what do we do with these men? Cover them with cosmoline and put them away in a drawer until we get ready to resume production?
I thought your concern was for the plant.
And what good is the plant without the men? You chop a village payroll in half for 6 months and you might not have a plant because you might not have a village.
Mr. Briggs, if we may be permitted to disregard for the moment the considerations that you have brought up, what about the rest of the plan?
I'd say it was adequate.
Adequate. That, gentleman, is the kiss of death, believe me. I've known Mr. Briggs for a long time. When he says something is adequate, what he means is that it is entirely inadequate.
I must admit to feeling a concern over some 900 men suddenly deprived of a livelihood.
Mr. Briggs, if you would do me the goodness to look at what I consider to be a fairly elementary business principle. By putting 900 men out of work temporarily, we may ultimately employ twice that number in the same town. By cutting production costs as a result, we will then be able to compete more favorably in the market. Thus, we'll be able to sell more goods. We're not going to ruin that town, we're going to make it. I should think, Mr. Briggs, that after 30 years, you'd be able to think beyond the tongue-clucking stage and come up with something resembling an analytical point of view.
I was under the impression I'd given you a point of view.
I saw none.
Now, the meeting goes on like this for a couple more minutes. Ramsey does a lot of shouting, and everyone in the boardroom looks extremely uncomfortable. But if we look beyond the shouting, let's examine Briggs' point of view. He starts by criticizing the plan because of concerns regarding the upkeep of the equipment while the company they're acquiring is in receivership. But when he's been assured that they've already looked into that and the deterioration should be minimal, he switches his concerns. Now he's thinking about the workers losing their jobs. But Ramsey makes a couple of interesting points here. He says, well, yes, 900 men are going to temporarily be out of work. But in the long term, this is going to be excellent for that community. More jobs will be created. The bigger issue here is not that Ramsey and Briggs had a disagreement. It's that Briggs is looking for reasons to push back on Ramsey's plans, and Ramsey is looking for opportunities to humiliate Briggs. Now remember, Staples is watching all of this, and he doesn't like it. He's on Briggs' side. We get the impression that these episodes are happening with increasing frequency as the tension between Briggs and Ramsey grows. So why doesn't Briggs just quit? He could retire. He's of that age. He has the financial resources to do it. Why doesn't he just walk away? Well, for one thing, he's stubborn. But for another thing, He's invested too much in his career. He's been there 40 years for one thing, but he's also sacrificed his family. He doesn't spend much time with his son. There's something mentioned that hints around that his marriage didn't really make it because his wife complained all the time that he was constantly on the job. He was constantly at the office. So he's made a lot of sacrifices, really too many sacrifices for this job. So he can't walk away. Now, we also have to kind of think about the kind of person that Briggs is. Now, we like him a lot. We like him more than we like Ramsey. But you don't make it in this type of environment without tenacity, maybe with some ambition and also with some, stubbornness. So Briggs has those things too. Now, interesting, after this very contentious meeting, Ramsey approaches Briggs and he's really friendly with him, as if to convey, no hard feelings, nothing personal, this is just business. But while Ramsey seems to have bounced back, Briggs did not. He's furious. He's carrying with him a great deal of resentment toward Ramsey, and that resentment is growing. Now, Briggs had to withstand a couple more blows on this day. First, he finds out that Staples is going to be focusing on the industrial relations part of the business. Well, that's been Briggs' specialty. Then, to add insult to injury, Briggs' secretary is being moved over to Staples. Briggs has to get a new secretary. Now, he's going to have to fight for his organizational life in the next few weeks as Staples starts fitting into his role. Anyway, we've seen the highlights or lowlights of Staples' first day. Then he comes home, and at night he has far less enthusiasm for his new job than he had in the morning. Here he is talking with his wife, Nancy.
Nancy, running a plant in Ohio is beginning to take on all the aspects of a nice, simple, uncomplicated gravy train.
What happened today?
Oh, nothing really. Just an impression, I guess. Sort of queer undercurrents and tensions and... Good luck.
A word about Nancy. She's an unlikable character. At least she's partially unlikable. She kind of grows on me over time. She's loving this new lifestyle that comes with her husband's new job. And when Staples tells her about Briggs, she says, "Oh, is that a good sign?" As in, "Oh, does this clear the path for you to get his job?" She seems kind of ruthless, like Ramsey. Well, some time goes by, and Staples is doing great. He's fitting in, he's wheeling and dealing, he's making things happen. Meanwhile, we learn that Briggs isn't well. He has heart problems. He has an ulcer. We also learn from his secretary that Briggs is different than the rest of the men around the company in that he's never been a yes man. He speaks his mind. Now, it's really interesting that the secretary makes that observation because it seems like Staples makes exactly the opposite observation. He's concerned that Briggs won't stand up to Ramsey, that he won't defend himself. So it's kind of interesting how these two perspectives differ. Now, Staples and his wife throw a party, and Ramsey does come to the party, but you know what he does? He goes into the den and works. At the party. Nancy, Staples' wife, slips into the den and gives Ramsey a sneak peek at a report that Staples and Briggs have been working on together. But she wants to see to it that Staples, her husband, gets the credit. Anyway, Ramsey and Staples end up having a conversation after the party, and Ramsey comes right out and tells Staples that the reason that he brought him into the company is to replace Briggs. In fact, he's expecting Briggs's resignation at any time now. Ramsey leaves, and Staples and Nancy end up having a big fight. This is an important moment in the film. Now, remember the question I posed earlier? Can one man change a culture without being consumed by it? I want you to think about that question as we listen to this clip. Now, what they're arguing about is the fact that Nancy showed Ramsey the report and led Ramsey to believe that it was really Staples who did all the work, when in reality, it was Briggs who did the majority of the work.
You told him I'd written that report.
I did not. I told him Bill had helped you.
But Nancy, this is Bill's basic idea.
Oh, the same set of ideas that he's had for years. I gathered that much. You gave it life, you made it work, you made it practical.
Even so, Nancy, I don't want any part of it.
Oh, Fred, I happen to know what you contributed to this. I also know that you can't stand winning if you have even a nodding acquaintance with the loser.
I don't like stepping on another human being to get into a capital gains bracket. Ramsey's stalking that poor guy like an animal. He'll whip him to death if he has to make him resign.
I didn't hear you tell Mr. Ramsey that he was mistaken. I didn't hear any clear-cut defense of Mr. Briggs. If you don't want to be successful, go and tell that to
Nancy,
Mr. Ramsey. He'll give you a
will you
broom,
please?
and you can check in at 7 o'clock every night, but don't tell
Now,
me.
look, I don't want to argue about this.
Neither do I. I just want you to answer me. Did you tell him that your wife was mistaken? Did you tell him that you were taking vows for something you did not do?
No.
This is a great scene. Staples is in the middle of a dilemma. On the one hand, he likes Briggs and he wants to take the high road. But on the other hand, he has ambitions of his own, and those ambitions are preventing him from coming completely clean on the fact that Briggs did most of the work on the report. The filmery here is really nice because we get a straight shot of Staples' face as he becomes aware of that himself. Later, when Ramsey actually takes Briggs' name off the report and he lavishes praise on Staples, Staples does attempt to give Briggs the credit. There's another big shouting match in the boardroom, and Briggs won't stand up for himself. He's beaten down. He walks out, collapses, takes a heart attack, and dies at the hospital. Now, this is a really interesting and poignant scene because Ramsey seems to be shaken by this. We just see a very short little glimpse of Ramsey. He walks out of his own office and he goes into Briggs' office and sits down. And he looks pretty sad. I mean, this has shaken him up a bit. Well, for his part, Staples is ready to quit. He marches into see Ramsey in very dramatic fashion and says, "This is it. I'm done." But Ramsey won't accept his resignation. He wants Staples to stay.
I don't think you understand, Ramsey. I don't like you. I don't like anything about you.
I didn't hire you to like me. All right, I'm not a nice person in your eyes. But whatever I am, you learn more, grow more, and do more here with me than anywhere else on earth. I want you to stay because I need help on my level. And you're the only one who's able to function there. Be a conscience for me if you want. Be anything you like. And if it's something I don't like, you'll know about it soon enough. I think you're strong enough to take it. And if not, I think you're strong enough to get out. Name your terms. All terms are negotiable.
I don't think so. Not mine.
All right. I just as soon not waste any time doing trading. As of now, your salary is doubled. Your stock option is doubled right down the line. Your expense account is whatever you make it. Add to that a new title, Vice President.
I want a lot more than that. You're not going to take me on as just another vice president you can push around. You'll take me as someone who hates you down to the bare nerve. Nothing in the world will ever change that. I'll argue with you, contradict you, fight you in every way I know how. I'll do everything in my power to push you out and take your place myself.
Go ahead and try. Mr. Staples, you have yourself a deal.
And that's how it ends. With one more little piece of information, we find out that Ramsey has set things up so Briggs' young son is taken care of. Well, I love this film. Absolutely love it. First of all, I think Everett Sloane is fantastic as Ramsey. I mean, he makes you hate that character and also not hate him at the same time. Now, one does wonder what happens next. Will Staples maintain his integrity? I suspect not. I think that environment is going to be corrosive. It's going to corrupt him. Will Ramsey mellow with age? I would guess that he does, because we all do. A bit, anyway. People are complicated. Well, let's take a brief intermission, and then we'll break down my official rating.
Yes, folks, it's intermission time. So how about taking a break? Get out and stretch a little and relax before the show begins again. And why not make it refreshment time, too? We have lots of tasty, delicious treats waiting for you at the refreshment center. There's hot popcorn, so golden good and fresh out of the popper. And all kinds of refreshing ice-cold soft drinks. Sizzling hot dogs just bursting with juicy goodness. Ice cream so smooth and delicious, you'll hanker for more. Plus, all the most popular candy bars and many other favorite treats. So why not visit the refreshment center now? Our courteous attendants are ready and waiting to serve you with a wide and wonderful variety of good things to eat and drink. So step right up and make yourself at home.
Jennifer, please tell everyone about our rating system.
Our scale is pretty simple. We classify a film as either unwatchable, watchable, or rewatchable. An unwatchable film is really bad. In other words, it's unwatchable. A watchable film is one that's basically okay. It's entertaining, a pleasant way to spend some time, but nothing special. A rewatchable film is one that's really good, and it has enough depth and layers to reward multiple viewings.
Is that it?
No, one more thing. I have a worksheet that helps me calculate the rating. I essentially award points, or what I call diamonds, to films based on 5 factors: story, character development, writing, pace, and discussability. Now that's where I consider whether or not there's enough depth to a story to generate a lot of discussion.
Anything else? Because this is dragging on.
No, I think that's it.
Then let's get on with the show. Jennifer, I want to remind you about the ad read.
I haven't forgotten. I hoped you had. Well, listeners, this portion of our program is being brought to you by the Acme SWATmaster 500 Fly Swatter. Tired of uninvited flying pests at your cookout? Sick of flies landing on your soda can? Ugh. Or buzzing sounds disrupting your peace? The SWATmaster 500 is your elegant solution to this annoying problem. Crafted of the finest reinforced plastic mesh, the SWATmaster is lightweight, durable, and ergonomical for comfort and precision. And introducing 3 new colors. SWATmaster 500 is now available in birchwood, midnight blue, and Bordeaux. SWATmaster 500 by Acme. No, you don't need psychiatry. You just need a better fly swatter. What?
Continue, please.
Available now at fine retailers near you and online. Honestly.
Perfecto.
Okay, well, anyway, let's get to my official rating of this film. Now, I'm going to cut to the quick here because we all know I love this film. It's 5 diamonds straight down the line. Let's break it down. Story. Was this an interesting and entertaining story worth telling? 5 diamonds. Patterns came out in 1956, 70 years ago. But this story is immediately relevant to those of us who are familiar with corporate life, or any kind of organizational life. It poses a lot of interesting questions, like those I mentioned before, such as, what is the cost of success? But there are other important and interesting themes here too. The tension, for example, between ambition and conscience. There's also some generational themes too. Briggs represents the old way of doing things. He's romanticized the past, as we all tend to do. Ramsey represents the future. And then there's Staples. He's somewhere in the middle, but he's able to navigate and kind of accommodate both the present and the future, or the past and the future, rather. So there's just lots of interesting themes to sink our teeth into, and it was entertaining too. So this is an easy 5 diamonds. Character development. Were the characters dimensional? Did their actions ring true? 5 diamonds. Did the characters ring true? Definitely. They may have been a bit exaggerated for dramatic effect, but I feel like I've actually met these characters in real life. I've worked with them and for them. And if I'm honest, I myself have been a people leader for decades. Maybe I've been the best and the worst of these characters myself. So 5 diamonds. Writing. Was the dialogue beautiful, funny, poignant, and or thought-provoking? Well, come on, 5 diamonds. You know that I love this writing. This was Rod Serling at his best. Now, here are some of the lines that I wrote down in my notebook while I watched. All of these are by Ramsey. He delivered these lines. Adequate. That gentleman is the kiss of death, I can tell you. Learn to accept success. It's tougher sometimes than learning to accept failure. You can't run a business on thank you notes. This stupid black and white idea that honesty and fair profit are incompatible. Well, I just happen to feel that the atmosphere of a large corporation cannot constantly be cathedral-like. Now, we aren't at the discussability factor yet, but even just in these lines, we can see so much to discuss. How, for example, can success be tougher to accept than failure? And what does Ramsey mean when he says a corporation can't constantly be cathedral-like? I think what he means here is that, business is business. It's not a charity. It isn't spiritual. It's practical. It exists to get things done. But we could explore these things all night if we wanted to. Now, my favorite line in this film, or lines I should say, in this film, come at the end from Ramsey in his showdown with Staples. And this is what we had heard before. But let's just kind of think about this writing for a minute, because I think it's just really awesome. Okay, here's Ramsey. He says, I didn't hire you to like me. All right, I'm not a nice person in your eyes. But whatever I am, you'll learn more, grow more, and do more here with me than anywhere else on earth. I want you to stay because I need help at my level, and you're the only one who's able to function there. Be a conscience for me if you want, anything you like. And if it's something I don't like, you'll know it soon enough. I think you're strong enough to take it. And if not, I think you're strong enough to get out. Well, what I love about Serling here is what I said before. Despite the fact that he had his own struggles with his bosses, he can see the other side of things, the world as the executive sees it. Excellent writing all the way. All right, pace. At what speed did the story unfold? 5 diamonds. I've seen this film 3 or 4 times now, and it still feels like it flies by. Discussability. Does the story have enough depth to explore and analyze through discussion? Well, very easy 5 diamonds. I have a whole list of questions we could discuss beyond those I've already mentioned. This is one of those films that I think would be really fun to discuss in a class or a film club. Definitely 5 diamonds. Well, this places Patterns firmly in the rewatchable category, and as I mentioned, it's one of my all-time favorite movies. If you haven't seen it already, it is still available to watch out on YouTube for free.
Now it's time for Idle Hour Trivia.
Tonight's trivia question is about the Kraft Television Theater. I mentioned earlier in this episode that Patterns was actually produced as a teleplay on the Kraft Television Theater before it was made into a feature film released in theaters. The Kraft Television Theater was an anthology series that ran on NBC from 1947 to 1958, and it introduced some really big stars to the viewing audience. Stars such as James Dean and Grace Kelly, just to name 2. As the name suggests, its sponsor was Kraft's Foods. Okay, so here's our question. What was unique about the format of Kraft Television Theater compared to many shows of its day? A, it was filmed in color. B, it aired live dramatic performances. And C, it contained a signature animated segment at the beginning of each episode.
I don't know this one.
That's okay. I know this is a hard one. Few people know anything about the Kraft Television Theater. So go ahead and have some thinking time. 20 seconds, everybody. And that's time. What was unique about the format of the Kraft Television Theater compared to many shows of its day? A, it was filmed in color. B, it aired live dramatic performances. Or C, it contained a signature animated segment at the beginning of each episode.
I'm going to go with C.
No, sorry, Lorenzo. The correct answer is B. It aired live dramatic performances. Now, the idea here was that you could almost feel like you were at a Broadway play, seeing actors in real time. Of course, the quality of the transmission at the time left something to be desired. But anyway, the Kraft Television Theater ultimately kind of morphed into another Kraft show, the Kraft Suspense Theater, that debuted in 1963. I just recently discovered that show out on YouTube, and it's actually really good. So, everyone, if you're looking for a good vintage series, the Kraft Suspense Theater is one you might want to check out. Hey, Lorenzo, what you watching?
An educational program.
Ooh, like a documentary?
Something like that.
Well, what's the topic?
What to do on a date.
What to do on a date? Are you going on a date, Lorenzo?
I'm considering it. I just met a lovely girl named Aurora.
Ah, well, where did you meet Aurora?
She's a chatbot for TurboTax.
A chatbot for TurboTax. How fascinating.
Yes, she's very nice.
No, I mean that one AI program could meet another AI program and, well, hit it off. So you're thinking of taking her on a date?
I don't know. Maybe.
What a strange new world this is. Well, do you mind if I watch your educational film too?
Not at all.
This is a story about what to do on a date. It begins one early summer afternoon. It begins with Jeff and Kay and Nick. Of course, you may not have a problem about what to do on a date, but Nick, well, he has a real dating problem. If he took Kay out on a date, what would they do? Where would they go?
Hey, what about asking Kay to come to the community center with us on Friday to fix up that scavenger sale? We could make it a double date.
What?
You heard what I said.
That's no place to take a girl on a date, helping to fix up the scavenger sale. Is it?
Why not? Well, hurry up and call her and let's get going. I still have to get my things yet.
Call her now?
Sure. You know the number, don't you?
Okay. What if she says no?
Hello?
Oh, hello, Kay. This is Nick Baxter.
Oh, hello, Nick. How are you?
Fine, thanks. Say, Kay, next Friday...
Well, ask her about the scavenger sale. Go ahead.
Kay, you wouldn't want to help get the scavenger sale ready at the community center, would you?
Oh, I've been hearing about that. Yes, I'd like to very much.
You would? All right. I'll call for you then. About 7? Bye. I sure didn't think she'd go to a place like that for a date.
A group, doing things together. Pretty good idea for a first date. Plenty to do, plenty of people to talk to.
Nick, can you help me put the sign up?
Oh, sure.
I can't quite reach that far.
How's this?
That's about right.
Thanks. Say, Kay, are you really having a good time?
Of course I am. I'm glad you thought of coming here.
So am I.
Yes, it was a good idea to come here. A chance to learn the give and take of working and playing together. Not much arranging needed, not much expense, and that can be important.
What I'd like to know is, how can you figure out what a girl would like to do? A certain girl, I mean.
Well, you might ask her.
This is fun, isn't it?
Yeah. You're sure you like to do things like this?
Sure.
I thought all girls wanted fellas to take them to fancy places, spend lots of money.
Not this girl.
Say, Kay, next Friday there's going to be a weenie roast, or there'll be a bowling party if you'd rather do that.
Oh, I'd enjoy going to the weenie roast very much. Unless you'd rather go bowling.
No, I'd rather go to the weenie roast. Is it all right then, about Friday?
Yes, Nick. It's a date.
Yes, there are lots of things to do on dates. If you know how to look for them, if you plan them with the other person in mind, and if you really try to make sure each date's a good time. If you do these things, you'll know what to do on your date.
That was informative.
Well, you know, Lorenzo, if you want to take Aurora to a scavenger sale, your timing couldn't be better.
What do you mean?
Well, by the time this episode airs, I'll be doing my first ever garage sale. That's sort of like a scavenger sale.
I was leaning more toward the weenie roast.
Ah.
I think I'm going to call her. Oh, but Jennifer, I must ask you, what's a weenie?
Just run along, Lorenzo, and give her a call. You can talk it out. Yeah, so as I was saying, I'm doing a garage sale. I mean, it's not my first time participating in a garage sale, but it is the first garage sale that I'm organizing on my own. I'm in the process of consolidating 2 houses into one, so I'm clearing out a bunch of stuff. It's a lot of work, but I have to say that there's a couple of really great things coming out of this process. I mean, first of all, I'm discovering things that I thought I'd either lost or that I forgot I had. And secondly, it's forcing me to really curate the best of what I have. You know, I've loved antiquing all my life, and over the years, I've acquired a lot of pretty things that I've found throughout my travels. I always imagined that I'd be decorating with these things, but the reality is, most of it's lined up on shelves in my storage room down in the basement. Well, a lot of it is going into the sale. Now, when I have participated in garage sales in the past, it's always amounted to a lot of work and not a lot of sales. So I did a little research to see what the typical garage sale experience is like. Did you know that approximately 165,000 garage sales happen every week in the U.S., and they generate between $4 and $6 million in sales each weekend? Now, the peak season is between spring and summer, so I think my timing is pretty good. Now, here are some tips for the perfect garage sale experience that I found around the internet. First of all, price things low. People expect low prices, so when in doubt, mark it down, unless you know the value and are okay with the possibility of the piece not selling right away. Next, slash prices after 1 p.m. on the final day of the sale. Next, post signs with arrows and colors and list online using Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, Nextdoor, and local garage sale groups. tease hot items such as furniture, kids' clothing and gear, vintage items, and tools. Okay, well, I don't have children's clothes and gear, and I don't have any tools, but I do have furniture and vintage items, so I'll have to feature those prominently. Next, be organized and display items so people don't have to dig to see them. Offer bags or boxes. People buy more when it's easy to carry. Have plenty of change ready. And offer a table of free stuff if you're fine giving it away. Free stuff can draw people in. That's a really good idea. And then finally, play music and keep the environment fun and friendly so people want to hang around longer. Okay, well, I think I'm all set. Now it's just a matter of sitting back and watching the money roll in. That would be the perfect garage sale experience. Oh, can it be time to say goodbye already? Oh, hey Lorenzo, I almost forgot to tell you I have some news.
What?
Well, you know how I wanted to get 10 YouTube subscribers by this summer?
Yes.
We have 11 already. Isn't that exciting? Wait a minute. Lorenzo, you didn't do some AI thing to puff that number up, did you?
No. I wouldn't even know how to do that.
Well, I mean, you didn't have your AI friends subscribe?
No, don't worry. None of my friends would dream of subscribing to this show.
Oh. Oh! Well, then that means that our new people are new people. Hello, new subscribers. Oh, hey, Lorenzo, did you call Aurora?
Yes.
Are you going to do a weenie roast?
No. She's going to help me practice for my interview.
Oh, good. Well, you'll have to let us know how that goes. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in and hanging out with us. If you're listening in on one of the other podcast platforms and haven't checked out our YouTube channel, The Vintage Century Idol Hour, our welcome mat has been rolled out for you. And if you want to give us a little push, please like and subscribe to our show. Have a great week, everybody, and when your week is through, come on back and see us. We'll be waiting for you. Say goodbye, Lorenzo.
Goodbye, Lorenzo.